Hi, welcome to valuationpodcast.com, a podcast and video series about all things related to business and valuation. My name is Melissa Gragg, and I provide online valuation services for mediation and litigation based in St. Louis, Missouri. Today, we'll be discussing business valuations when the future is unknown and the past is not reliable with my special guests, Josh Shilts and Stephanie Swetland. Josh's practice focuses on complex financial matters and disputes. He frequently lectures on forensic accounting matters and has been involved in hundreds of investigations involving personal and business disputes. He also has provided expert testimony in commercial and family matters around valuation, economic damages, and fraud. He's been qualified as an expert and testified in state and federal courts. Stephanie Swetland is also a licensed enrolled agent and is a QuickBooks Pro advisor for both online and desktop. She is continuing her education in accounting and plans to obtain her CPA license within the next couple years. They are both forensic valuation experts and offer tax advice in the state of Florida. We talk a little bit about how divorce has changed. I think that, and maybe Stephanie can give us a little insight into this, but we still have to look at income to the parties. And so when we have this dip, what if people lost their jobs? What if people got, under employed? What if people are in charge of their own business, but they decide that they're going to take less money, right? How does that impact maintenance, child support, all of these things? And we're having to do a lot more analysis around that piece too.
Agreed. And I think that to that point of specific income changes where, one of the spouses is the 100% owner of the small business and they specifically change their W-2 wages, I think that it's important to look at distributions from those entities, because a lot of the time, W-2 wages are just to satisfy the reasonable comp requirement of the IRS and not necessarily what they're actually taking in cash to facilitate the home. And I think a lot of that is seen in distributions. So I think that it's important, just in general for valuators to look at that and consider that when we're talking about support payments. I think it's also important to consider, back to stimulus, those cash flow items that are going for personal support, even throughout the marriage. And specifically divorce changes, I think that people are scared, for lack of a better term, to get into a divorce right now because there is so much uncertainty. At the beginning, we thought that divorce rates were going to go out the roof because, oh my gosh, everybody's going to be cooped up in the house together and this is not going to work, And I think that we did not see that specifically because of the volatility, and people were just like, you know what? I can't stand you. Maybe I don't even want to be with you anymore, but we're going to stay here because this foundation is solid and we'll worry about that after, And so I think that for the ones that did actually file for divorce and are going through this, and so we have to value their assets at these pandemic economy dates, I think that it's important to look at risk appropriation for investments specifically in those kinds of situations.
Yeah, all good points. And I think that sometimes business owners will say, well, I don't have control over my W-2 wages. I don't have control over distributions. That's the company money, and those, there's still a lot of games being played. But I also think that a lot of people, regardless of the litigation, are looking at alternative ways of getting through it. So mediation or collaborative divorce, or really, I feel like it's kind of just a hybrid. Josh, we do so much of this that it's like, we don't need to be in court. We don't need to be in mediation. How about we just sit down and talk? How about we all get in on a Zoom, right?
I think one of the positives, right, specifically when we talk about divorce, because I guess what troubles me in divorce is, my job is to at face value the assets, tell you what X and Y is. I like doing divorces where my client spends X amount with me, and guess what? It pays off tenfold. But one of the benefits I'm seeing is what you're talking about. People are definitely being more conscientious of what they are spending. So instead of having, 60 days of discovery issues, it is simple as, hey, let's just pick up the phone. Let's get this done, right? Mm-hmm. Instead of having the dueling experts on the stand, it's, what's your value? This is my value. Are we missing something? Let's understand it. I mean, I have a divorce right now. Husband is a partner in 2 different hotels, right? Very forthcoming to me. He's not my client. This is what's going on, showing me month over month, right? We've been in this litigation probably 8 months. Sends me monthly updates to keep me apprised of, and was very optimistic about what's going to happen, right? And so being open to those different types of things. On the flip side, I still see what I call the regular, bad actors, if you will, still playing the games that they do. I think an extra little wrinkle in there is PPP funds. I've probably in the last year seen 2 or 3 what I would consider fraudulent transfers of PPP funds, depending on how that term is described in whichever venue. But where I'm seeing, people in just taking that PPP money and the payroll is fine and everything, but instead of saving it there and shoring up their balance sheet, they're going and doing home renovations, or they went and bought a new boat. And not only is that potentially problematic in a divorce or business partner disputes, I've seen some business partner disputes. Now you're talking about having some issues with either the IRS or the Small Business Administration. I know there's been a lot of talks about, who the SBA is going to audit, right? Stephanie, we've kind of
talked about that. To that point, right? When
there's audit risk out there. Go ahead.
Right. When we first started talking about PPP, we really pushed to the people that we were talking to in all of the different settings. Set up a separate account, and when you process payroll, transfer the funds. When you pay your rent, transfer the funds. That way it's a clean movement. And I think that the people that will suffer, per se, will be the ones that did not do something like that. And they continue to take those large cash sums out of the business account for personal uses, whatever the personal use was, right? And we know the SBA is definitely going to audit anyone that received over $2 million in PPP funds. And I think that people that took the second draw PPP will also be looked at more heavily than any others under $2 million in the first round. And I think that IRS has already told us that they plan to double their audit of pass-through entities and small business self-employed individuals. So I just think that it's important that we're aware of that, and that we know that the IRS they don't have to come now, right? They can come up to 3 years later. So I think that those are some important things to also consider when we're really scrutinizing PPP funds or other stimulus monies and things like that.